place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, it's a nice drizzly day outside, a very fall day. I have Seth Hickman here from you have a new title now. Why don't you tell us?
Yeah, so I'm supporting all of our secondary curriculum and our advanced academics, so really just helping the middle schools and high schools be successful.
But one of those areas is the early college program, and we'll be talking about that. But also, you and I before the show, we're talking about some of the now new state mandates, and I'd like to talk about that as well, because a lot of people think that teachers have this liberal attitude about what they could teach, and I'm telling you right now that it never has been the case, really. Well, when I started in the early 90s at the high school, you had a lot of latitude, but pretty much by the end of that decade, everybody was going along with the TEKS, and now we're getting to the point now it's getting a lot more strict about it. So, I read stuff in the paper about other districts, and they're going on with these, very, exotic AP courses or whatever you want to call them, or honors courses. We don't have time for that, do we?
No, we focus on making sure our kids are strong in reading and writing, strong in math, have that, social studies background that they need to be good citizens, and science as well. So we focus in.
But in this new job, do you handle all the core subjects?
Yep. So all the core subjects. And then we have a director of CTE, Randy Woolsey, who takes care of our CTE courses, which are so vital to our kids' success and our community's success.
She was on in February or March. No, February actually of this year. I had the young lady, I'm trying to remember her name, who handled the School of Choice program. And then I think I had Ms. Woolsey in March. And I bet I'll see him again next spring, because Caitlin is now kind of running the show on who comes from BISD for this show. So Ms. Tyler is going to tell me who it's going to be, and you're going to like it.
That's right.
Well, I had Scott Shahay on last time, and security also with Mr. Arnett, Matt. There we go. I remember his name now. Well, before we jump into all these other programs we got going on, I'm going to talk about our sponsors. Thank you, CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Now with the Thanksgiving and Christmas breaks coming up, you don't want to let it go. You want to make sure you stay fit, and while you're porking out on Thanksgiving Day or whatever. So CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Check out their webpage for times, classes, programs, trainers, all the above. Thank you, Shandy. It's the Stogsdill Group. I was talking to Alex Phillips on Monday, and we were talking real estate, and she deals with real estate, of course, and it's still booming here in Burleson, and I'm sure you're seeing it, Mr. Hickman.
Every day on the drive-in, something new.
Right, but you're dealing with the ever-growing school numbers of children we got coming in. And
we do, and we serve them all.
Yeah, and, a lot of people move to this town because of the school district. Shandy says the first thing that families ask school, second thing, police, third thing, economic, not opportunity, but variety, Right. So Shandy Stogsdill, if you're moving to this area, just give her a call. She'll help you out quite a bit. Also, Otto, I'll be seeing you today, Otto. Have lunch there with a friend of mine. So our place is the place to do it. Do a little business. It's a great place. I like the service. I'm sure you've gone there more than once.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and it just really is our place. So thank you, Otto, for what you do for the community. Also, Wild Cigar over at the Standard. They got weekend specials going on. They got happy hour Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Plus, usually Thursday they have something on special. Plus, it's a good place to have a drink, have a smoke, watch the ball game, whatever you want. Have a nice conversation. So Wild Cigar at the Standard. Also, Tiffany Nico. Busy as always. I say, hey, you need to come to the show. Oh, I can't. She needs more help. Local Life magazine. It's out already. It's about small business, which is we highly encourage y'all to support during this holiday season because they pay our taxes. I made it a point when I was a teacher and still do, to try to shop locally if I can, because they're paying my salary. I need them to stay in business. So Local Life magazine, 30,000 homes get it. A lot of businesses get it. So it's a great place to market. Also, Cody O'Brien. You want to talk to this young man at Burleson Buzz. It's a local news blog. It comes out on Tuesdays and does like an update on Fridays. And Cody, if you hear this, you need to talk to this man, because it'll be a really good article. But if you're listening to the show right now and you're listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood, you get 20% off if you mention that to him. 20% off the subscription price, and it's already very affordable, so it's a bargain. But he does a lot of stuff with the city and schools and stuff like that. So be a good way to promote what we do. Now, okay, so let's start from the beginning, I guess. Now, you're heading, last time we talked, you were headed to the early college program, but that's now part of your job. You got the other parts as well. How do you keep all that straight?
Yeah, no, my job is to help the principals succeed. So if I'm supporting them well, then I'm doing what I need to do. So just really helping them out and making sure that they are taking care of our teachers who are taking care of our students. So just all filters down, and it's all about the team.
Yeah. So you don't really have to, hold their hand very much.
Oh, no. We have phenomenal administrators. They are just so great, so intelligent. Like, yeah, the work that they do is fantastic. And that's what, supports our teachers and helps them be successful each and every day with our kids.
Well, when I was at BHS, we went through several various iterations of the curriculum formation. Sometimes, I thought, why are we doing this? Sometimes it was pretty helpful.
Sure.
And whatever. But do the teachers still have a decent amount of input in this curriculum formation?
So really, we have our, approved resources, our textbooks that we use, the TEA approves, and then we go through and kind of work through with teachers, like you're saying, okay, so what should we do? Pace out the week. How should it go? Teachers have that freedom to say, okay, my kids really struggled today and didn't get it. I need to take some time the next day. I need to adjust what I'm doing, make sure that they're mastering this before I move on. But yeah, we work with teachers in the summer to help that out.
Well, one thing that you now are talking about is that one of the things that happened about maybe 10, 15 years ago is on a departmental level, they wanted to have us all more or less on the same day, roughly doing the same thing per subject. So we wouldn't have, like in history, somebody's teaching, World War II, while everybody else is teaching, the 1890s, that kind of, differentiation, or vice versa, we want to keep up as well. But it sounds like now, from what you described, this is a bit more rigidly mandated from the state level.
It is. So yeah, the state really wants us to make sure that every kid is getting the same education, no matter which school they're at, which teacher they have, that they're getting the same quality education is the goal of that. And so, I walked in, this was my week to be in classes of math and science teachers. So as I walked in multiple campuses, I was at BHS on Tuesday, CHS on Wednesday, and I could see the progression of a lesson. Oh, I saw the one before that at BHS. And so kind of see how it goes. Okay, here's the next day of that at CHS. And so that means if a kid moves and has to transfer between campuses, they are so okay because they pick up right where they were. And that's helpful for us.
Well, I know the logic behind that, but what sometimes happens at the state level, and they say, we want you to be at a certain point on, say, February 15th. That's hard to do because you've got all these potential disruptions, a weather event.
Sure.
Maybe a school has, I remember one time many years ago, we had to almost shut down school because of a flu epidemic. This is like 15 years ago, maybe.
I remember.
Okay, and all these other things going on, and how could they mandate that from a state level that everybody be on the same page roughly?
So it's about within our district. So as we have things come up, we adjust things. So we definitely take that into account. And we know, someone's out, a teacher's out for a few days. It's going to take them a few days to catch back up, and that's okay. That's just real life, right?
Well, that was my next question. Say if a teacher has a health event of their own and they're out for 2 weeks. The only time that happened to me is about 22, 23 years ago. I missed 2 weeks because of pneumonia, and it blew up my AP classes. They were very unprepared that year because they missed 2 weeks of instruction. And so by the time they took the test, I wasn't anywhere close where I needed to be.
Right. So one of the advantages now really is the balance that we have in online curriculum and paper curriculum is that if a teacher is out, they can still post for kids the work that needs to be done that day. And so kids get less behind when teachers are out than they used to, which is kind of nice. I can walk into a class and a sub's in there, but the kids are doing the assignment because it's on their Chromebook, and they just get in and they do it because that's kind of their habit, is to check the same place every day, get their assignment, and they can just kind of move forward. So that actually does help us out, the kind of the way we incorporate technology into the classroom now.
What format do y'all use?
So Schoology is our learning management system, which you're familiar with.
We use it at Hill.
Yep. Yeah. So and most classes structure it in a similar way. So you can walk in and I can look at it and see where a kid should be, and they do it every day. So obviously they know where to go. So.
But I guess people who are hearing this from the outside might think that we're like teaching them in a very rigid, automated way, but there's still latitude for the teacher to do they have to do all the same assignments?
So they do, like in English, for instance, they use the same texts. So
Right.
every kid at Hughes and Kerr and our other middle schools are exploring the same text right now. But this teacher may take this group discussion approach to it, and this teacher may want to really focus on annotation. And really, it's about what are the learning standards that we want the kids to master, not about necessarily that text, but what is our goal with their learning, and how can I best get my group of kids to master that learning with this text.
Well, let's say we're in a history subject area and we're talking about World War II. All the kids that are being taught World War II and all across all the on-level classes be given the same test?
Yeah. Yep. So they have that. And at the yes and no. So we have unit tests that we kind of help develop with teachers. And then there's more tests that go into it than just a unit test. And so teachers have their own tests that they give, or like a DBQ in an AP class might be a test grade and those kind of things.
Well, my only concern about that, just from an outsider, is that from my experience, let's say that, you'd have to give the test on the same day, right? And what if teacher X is not there yet?
Yep.
That could be an issue. Or, they miss a day, or they're ahead, or they're behind, is probably the bigger problem. Sure. Or you have a kid that misses, for what reason, he's sick, they're at a golf tournament, whatever. Would that, if everybody's taking the same test, wouldn't that kid be able to find out what's on the test?
They might, but that's just as true if it was just that teacher's test, right? I mean, and so we do the best we can with the reality of kids being out and how we support them and make sure that we're assessing their learning the best we can.
What we would do is usually, particularly if you're doing like an objective type test, you had test banks. So we'd make like a backup test for somebody like that. But if you were doing like a more of a subjective written test, whatever, it wasn't quite the issue, because usually they already knew what they were going to be writing about. It wasn't.
Absolutely.
Anyway, most teachers I knew would never like come to class and find out what the test question is going to be. It's like, this is what we're going to be talking about, or this is what you're going to be tested over, and that kind of thing.
That's best practice.
Right. But I was just thinking, you got a kid that maybe manipulate that situation, say, oh, Mama, I got a cold and I missed, and they'll take it a couple of days later, and these buddies have said, well, this is what was on the test.
Yeah. And, we do the best we can with that. We also know that they're taking all their grades all the rest of the way around, and you see, oh, you have really been struggling through this whole unit, and then you got this great grade. Let's keep working on this and make sure we're really assessing where you are.
Well, but overall, you think this is a positive method of doing things?
Yeah. Because, like I said, if this teacher teaches this lesson this way, and this teacher teaches this lesson this way, and then we come back and we look at that data and say, oh, wow, the way this teacher did it was more effective. Let's think through if that's really the best way, or if it was the best way for those kids, or how we learn from each other is really the goal as teachers.
It sounds like, though, there's a lot of not cross-curriculum is the word I'm thinking of, is maybe a cooperation between Centennial and BHS.
There has to be, right?
Between Hughes and Kerr.
Absolutely.
And so they have time to get together and do this on a routine basis?
So we have time for that built in several times throughout the year. And really, we have our curriculum coordinators who go campus to campus, and they're kind of the ones who also take that communication. So we have our social studies curriculum coordinator who's been kind of working really on helping our social studies teachers in 8th grade, how they grade the written assignment, not just the multiple choice piece, but that written piece.
Who is the coordinator these days?
So Matt Kitchens, he's new to the role this year. So he's doing a great job there, but really helping, the Kerr teachers say, here's what the Hughes teacher saw. And then talk to those Hughes teachers. Here's what the Kerr teacher saw, and help that communicate. So next time we are all in the same room, they aren't starting from scratch. They've been seeing each other's work.
Well, in my experience with Centennial, the rivalries really were limited to the sports, because a lot of those people at Centennial were former BHS people at the beginning.
Yes.
And so we all knew each other well, and they had really good teachers, of course, and they hired some good ones. So that never was the issue. And it's one thing that we also did, I hope y'all still practice this, is that we also not just align them horizontally, but vertically. So we remember one time we got into a room, this is a while back, we got into the meeting room at the administration building, and we had the 5th grade teacher said, this is what we teach in social studies, 6th, 7th, 8th, all the way up. And so that way you could stair step it a little bit more. I assume that's still part of the practice. Yeah,
we try to do that as much as we can. I remember doing that at the BHS library one day as a math teacher, as we had, I think, 4th through high school in there talking through that to make sure that we're aligning that piece.
Well, we did it a while back, but we hadn't done it in a while. We didn't. I thought we might be able to do it with, now that we have Centennial back in 2014 or whatever, but we were doing a lot of cross curriculum stuff. But I'm going back to what the state mandate here. What is the repercussions if the district or campus said, we're going to go our own direction? Thank you very much.
We don't want them to do that. The state doesn't want us to do that. And really, our goal is to support each other. Like you're saying, it's the cooperation. And that's what this sets us up for.
This is where you come in and say, you know, got to be a team player.
That's right. That's right. We are really trying to be Team BISD.
Right.
That you're right. We have our own schools, but we're really trying to play for Team BISD.
Well, I'm not saying we're going to be rebellious like that,
Of
because
course not. No, we're not.
That's not y'all's attitude or opinions. And Dr. Jimerson doesn't seem to be a boat rocker about that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I'm just wondering, you may have some districts in other areas that'll say, particularly that are, you know, maybe more isolated, say, we're going to do what we're going to do. In the state of Texas, you can drop dead.
Yeah.
I guess they'll have some sort of repercussions involved.
I'm sure they will, but you know, for us,
that's not even going to be an issue. So
it's not going to be an issue.
Well, you know, people ask me what's been different about school since I started. I started in '88 and then high school in '90. And the two biggest things, one we talked about before, is early 2000 when they started quantifying everything, all the students' performance with those tests and other measures, and they would grade schools based on these objective measures, which were not just a test, but attendance and how many were taking AP and how many were in your special ed programs, blah, 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 right? And then you get graded for it, you know, acceptable or recognized and all this. And it also broke the students down into various subgroups. I mean, not just by ethnicity or race, but also economic status and whatnot. That changed a lot of the approach to teaching. Okay, not all of it bad.
Right, of course.
All right, I guess the bad side, if you will, is that it kind of did focus you on a test sometimes, and you couldn't be more, you know, freewheeling and whatnot. The good side of it was, though, you wouldn't have subgroups that were not learning as well and not be recognized for that. You know, if you had a subgroup like 10th grade, economically disadvantaged, that not doing well, now we know.
Exactly. It's awareness for us.
So it did help in that regard, that we could be more aware of all of the kids and not just, okay, the ones that are doing the best or the worst.
Yes.
The other side I think also made it is that how tact I can put this. When I first started high school, teachers were basically all free agents. And you had really good teachers, and you had some that kind of just did their own thing. And by having that kind of requirement, accountability, you know, everybody had to pick up their game. And you didn't have that one or two teachers in every department that all the kids wanted because they got to eat candy and sleep and watch movies all day and that kind of stuff. Everybody was going to be getting, you know, a certain level of accountability asked of them and of the teachers.
Absolutely.
So I have a you know, mixed view of No Child Left Behind, but it's not all negative.
Right.
The other thing that I think it's changed quite a bit is more and more and more the state of Texas gets involved in the daily actions of our schools. When I started in '88, we had TEKS and we had the TEA, but they were as distant as the moon. And then throughout the '90s, you know, we were still in the '90s. We started becoming a little less free agents and within the department, and started to be more of a team, but we still charted our own course.
Right.
Not now so much. I mean, the state is a lot more involved in the daily operations of our districts.
And, you know, they're doing some things that are ways that I worried they were going to be a little over-involved, but it hasn't been. So they're trying out we're in a pilot program right now where they're trying out what would it look like if you did STAR 3 times a year instead of just once, but shorter, and just focused on, is that kid growing throughout the year and getting better? And so, but the way they have it set up, it's not that you have to have taught this by this date or anything like that. They still have a lot of freedom for us, even built into these things that they're trying, that really could be a way where they said, okay, you have to teach this in this order by this date, but they didn't. So that made me feel a lot better about it.
Well, from 2009 to 2016, I was on that board for the State Board for Educator Certification, right? And I worked with TEA, and I came away pretty impressed with the people. Now, the processes and bureaucracy kind of drove me a little nuts, but it drove them nuts too.
Sure.
But as far as the quality of personnel, I do believe that they had the best intentions in mind. So this idea that we have some, you know, bureaucrat that's trying to dictate certain philosophies or directions or political indoctrination I never saw that.
No.
And the people that I worked with, you know, because they were always supplying us with information, and I could call them up and say, hey, I need to know about this and all this business. They were very, very helpful. And I think they truly wanted the state of Texas children to do well.
Yep.
Now, from the outside, people will look at it and just another bureaucracy and they're, paper pushers and pencil pushers. But again, that was not my impression.
No, mine neither. And I think, as I moved from classroom teacher to like department chair and further up, I felt like as a teacher, I had blinders. I was looking at my class and what they needed, but those blinders kind of widened. And seeing the bigger picture, you see those places where I don't understand it yet because I don't have the view that they do. So I think, when you're trying to serve a state as large as Texas, that's a challenge no matter how you do it.
You mentioned, though, about, the focus on the classroom. I plead guilty to that because I was so dialed into my classroom that I thought anything that was coming from down the street, so to speak,
Yep.
I viewed with some skepticism because I thought, it's working here. Why am I being asked to change? And so that was probably an area of my professionalism. If I had to go back and do things, I might have been a bit more accepting of advice from outside the classroom, because I thought, what do they know? I'm here, I'm dealing with these kids. I know blah, blah, blah. Leanne Arthur will tell you, you ask her, and if you want to see her eyes roll, say, I talked to Mr. Allard today. And, oh my God, because I confess, Leanne, I'm sorry. I apologize to you now because I'd be a bit skeptical.
Yeah. But that's why we need teacher buy-in and understanding of what we're doing. Otherwise, you're right. I mean, if a teacher doesn't understand why we're asking them to do what we're asking them to do, it's hard for them to want to do it. I get that.
And there's also that professional ego. And I don't mean ego like arrogance, but you got to walk into a classroom. You got to think, I know what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
I know the material, because you're going to be dealing with 25 to 30 kids of various degrees of attention or lack thereof or abilities. And you got to think, I could teach anything to anybody at any time.
Which is part of the fun of teaching, right?
Well, yeah, but it does make you a bit difficult to deal with. And I'm quite sure if you talk to something like Stacy Sterling or others, she'll say, well, let me tell you about Allard, all right? Or Scott Shea, I worked with them, they'll tell you. But I think BISD is doing a really good job, and I didn't see that from a global perspective that I have now. Like I said, like you said, we were dialed in on our classrooms and maybe our department and maybe occasionally the campus.
Right.
But now that I'm sitting here in this chair and I've talked to y'all and I've talked to other people of your colleagues and I've talked to other people in the community, I see more things globally, and that's been a real blessing.
Yeah.
And now that you're head of social studies, not just social studies, but all secondary curriculum, you probably have even a more global view.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And that's part of the the fun part of the job is okay. Now I have to really think about all the breadth of this, and that's good that we have the time to do that.
But you have people that work under you that are specialized in the topics, right?
Of course.
Okay, good. So you don't have to be an expert in science or English.
We don't want me doing that. Yeah, we want other people who are those experts.
Yeah, and you probably all meeting in one little bitty office in the ad building, because I know it's cannibalized about every square foot for office space.
That's right. That's right.
But and I've talked to other people, and they say, "Well, why do we need all this stuff?" I said, this isn't your grandfather's school system or even your parents' school system or even the one that we went to. There's so much more asked of graduates and the students, so much more asked of the school systems that when I was in high school, and I went to a really good high school. I went to one of the top ranked in the state, went to Plano Senior High School. We had nothing like what you got going on here.
Of course.
Early college program, game school, the various C2E things going on. And I went to one of the best funded schools in the state. So we had stuff that most other schools do not. And we're still nowhere close to what we offer at BISD.
I think you're right when you say that so much more is asked of our graduates than in prior years. And I think that's where, to me, our biggest challenge is how do we prepare them for what's next for them? Because it's a whole different world.
I remember my senior year, they had a computer programming class, and they did it on punch cards. Okay. That's like sticks and stones, now. And I tell kids that, I told them in class, well, I used to own punch cards, and I go, what are you talking about?
They have no clue, right?
Not a clue. And But we were, Plano Senior High was seen as cutting edge because we had that kind of program.
Yep.
And the highest math you go to would be about a pre-cal level then, and that was considered to be a luxury almost.
Right.
Now most of our kids graduate with it, typically.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I'm real pleased with how the district has responded to all these different challenges that are presented to our graduates. You know, I think people that are outside our system, maybe that don't have kids in it, they think, well, it's just big, massive bureaucracy. But you know, this is, like I said, this is the reality of the new world of education.
Absolutely is. And you know, one of the things I love about BISD is how many of us at the admin building have our kids in the district, because that means I'm deciding for the kid I care about most in the world, all of her friends, and all the other kids there, that this isn't impersonal for me.
Well, I intentionally moved here in 1991 because I wanted, when I went from Hughes rather to the high school, I said, okay, this is where I'm going to plant my flag, because I'm not native to Burleson, so I thought I'd be here for a few years and move on. But when I got to the high school and I was teaching classes, I really liked, said this is going to be it. I wanted my kids to take part in that.
Right.
You know, I wanted my kids to be part of the BISD system because I had faith in it. If I did not, I wouldn't have had it. I would have either gone another direction or gone to another district or whatever. But I wanted my kids to take advantage of what we offered. And this was back, 15 years ago. This is before game school. This is before early college.
Right.
This is before Centennial had, the culinary arts program that this whole community seems to rave about.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
The Chamber of Commerce people love it. And, well, on the other side, on the ads, I want to talk about the early college program in particular, because you still are in charge of that.
So I help support Dr. Bonzu, the principal there, and their whole program. It's a great partnership with Hill to make sure that our kids are walking out with that associate's degree at such a high rate, way higher rate than most early college high schools in the rest of the state.
Well, I do know that we're one of the vanguard, if you will. I mean, there's a couple other districts around here, I believe, that do this as well, but we're still in the minority, so to speak, in the DFW area. Most districts don't do that yet.
Yeah,
I think that's the way it's going to be the way of the future. But
absolutely, I think so too.
Yeah, but I'm glad that we're kind of on board, kind of right before the commercials. I remember when Dr. Jimerson came on board in 2013, I believe, and the first time I met him was at the graduation of that year's class, and so he wanted to introduce himself and all this, and Richard Crum was going to kind of like hand the reins over to him during that ceremony, introduce him to the public. And he comes up to me. And somehow he knew my name, which kind of frightened me a bit. That's a very frightening honor.
Right.
But he knew what I taught dual and AP. And he told me then this was his vision eventually.
Yes.
And he wanted to ramp up. The dual enrollment program was on life support when he came on board. Seriously, one of his predecessors, not Richard Crummell, make sure, because Richard's still part of our system.
Right.
But one of his predecessors basically wanted to phase it out. And Jimerson comes on board and said, that's nuts. Crummell kept it alive, but Jimerson said, we're going to make this thing bigger.
He believes in it for sure.
And so I give him a lot of credit for this, and so, every superintendent gets a bit of static every now and then, but I think the parents would say that this program probably saved me several $1,000s.
Absolutely does. Absolutely does. When we calculate it and add it up, it's amazing how much parents can save. Well,
let's talk about Christmas sales at Gala's store at Southern Gym. They're open right now. They're going to be busy. They're going to be opening up after Thanksgiving. Have a few. I think they're going to be open up more days. She's considering it. I know they're going to be open up till 6 after Thanksgiving, and every Saturday in December. And they got all sorts of programs now. If you need something designed or repaired, I'd get it in right now, because they got a lot of people that are coming in. Robin, my wife, who works there, and she says that they're getting a real steady stream of people. So Southern Gym over at the Standard by American Revelry. Also, our friends at Old Pro Roofing, John Williams, 817-734-2756. He checked out my roof. He gave me an A+ rating, so he didn't have to worry about it. And it's nice, I go to these, they're part of my networking group, and they say, well, you need to be sure to check your roof. We don't want to be caught short and it rains. And now I don't have to worry about that. So thank you, John, for all you do. Also, a couple old Burleson folks, not old, but long-time Burleson folks, Sammy Campbell, Candy Gal, Camco. This is a new mortgage business. They just started last month, but it's the same location, same business, same expertise. You can call Sammy at 817-778-4592. Candy is 817-925-2661. They're same location, third floor of that B&G building in the south end, and so you can go by, and if you're looking to refinance, I heard the rates came down yesterday, so they're probably doing a happy dance. Not that it came down much, but we'll take what we can get right now. Also, Matt Cobb Plumbing. I'm going to have you on in about 2 weeks. Cobb Plumbing has been around since 1970, and if you hear this, announcement and tell them you heard it here, you get 10% off the next service call. The Cobbs, it's like a 4th-generation type plumbing outfit. They've been plumbing since 1948, but they've been in Burleson since 1970. And they do commercial, they do residential, they do all sorts of things. And they can do inspections. They can fix whatever's ailing you. I'm going to tease Matt about this a little bit. Robin was going through some old receipts a couple of days ago, just a box we found, and we found a receipt from them for 2006. And I don't know why we're saving that for a scrapbook, maybe. I don't know, but there you go. Okay, the early college program, of course, over the new redesigned building. All those old timers call it the old high school. Some call it the old curve. But, you know, it's interesting because I walk in there, I teach a class there, 2 classes there actually, and I'm 2 doors down from where I started in 1990, but I don't really feel any nostalgia for it because it's like a totally different place.
It is a completely different place.
You know, nothing looks the same.
Yep.
You know, the library is now a big area for, you know, academic counseling and other types. And, you know,
taking out those lockers outside the library made a huge difference.
Yes, that was very crowded. They tell me that where the early college kids are, because I deal in the Hill College side of it. The early college kids, and there's a division there, a divide. Hill kids can't go into the high school area. Right. They tell me that it still looks more familiar, but those doors are locked. I might get Officer Schaefer to take me on a tour next time I'm with him.
Good plan.
But you know, it's very impressive, very much so.
It is.
And but one of the questions I was going to ask you about was, you know, you want to start them off in the 9th grade. What happens if a kid moves in here from another district in their junior year and they want to take part in this? So
really, it's a hard task to fit a kid in after really 9th grade. Occasionally you can do it after 10th, but it's tough. So, you know, the great thing is that BHS and CHS offers so much dual credit that you can still go there. You can get your English, you know, 4 semesters that. You can get your U.S. history. You can get a lot, math, science also. We've added more science courses at our traditional high schools as well that are dual credit. So really, you can still walk into BHS and CHS and get quite a few hours. Well, my son and my daughter walked out of there. Was some hours. I think my son had about 18, and he went to Baylor his first couple of years, and they accepted most of them. Well, what they did a lot of times, and the schools could be kind of squirrely about this, is they'd say, we'll give you credit, but we'll give you elective credit. We want you to take our English class or our math class. Or, okay, fine. Yep. So maybe it got them out of taking another class, but they still had to take, you know, calculus. Right. You know, stuff like that. But, you know, but these kids that are coming out with an associate's degree, do they go straight to University of Texas at Arlington, North Texas, absolutely.
A&M,
they can just walk right in and be done there in 2 years. So that's a lot of money saved.
Do you have any feedback yet for those kids that have gone to the 4-year universities? You know,
what we hear is they're being successful there. They are successful on the state STAR EOC tests at a really high level. We're graduating more of them with their associates than most early college high schools. So we see just success after success after success for those kids.
When was when was the first graduating class?
I believe it was 2020.
Okay. Maybe an idea to throw out there where you can ask some of those kids to come back and talk to those 9th graders and say, said, you know, here's what you got to expect at UTA or Tarleton or, you know, TCU, wherever they're going. Right,
wherever they are, yeah. And they do a lot of college field trips, so it'd be fun to have some of the kids who are at that college meet up with them for those field trips.
And you say, this is what they expect of you. And they want you to read, actually, you know, and they expect you to show up and, you know, all these things that y'all have been drilling them. I think it helps to hear that, well, that's not just teacher talk. It's actually the reality of the thing.
The skills you're going to learn here really do matter.
I used to have that sometimes. I have kids come visit and say, hey, take a few minutes to tell us what you're doing over in Texas or A&M or Baylor. And then and I'd give them a few minutes to talk to my class. And I remember when I was a student in high school back in the days at my, what is now AP History was then Social Studies honors. The teacher had a couple of kids come in and he just shut the class down and said, tell them what's going on in college. And, you know, it was enlightening that, you know, you have to get up. Right. You have to read. A due date is not a suggestion, you know, that kind of thing. So
and that's only 4 years away.
Yeah, right. And so you're already teaching them about that kind of discipline.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm sure there's some kids that think they could handle it, and after a while they don't, or they miss playing sports, because I understand that if you're in that program, you're not going to go over to play football.
That's right.
And they miss it or something like, or band or whatever they want to do. but they're not behind it. They go to Centennial or BHS. They're probably a little ahead even.
They're probably a little ahead, and they have some of those dual credit classes that they've already taken care of. So that's nice. That aren't, and really those freshman and sophomore classes at the collegiate school aren't offered at our traditional schools. So
now, are they getting college credit as a 15-year-old freshman?
They are.
What classes are they getting?
So I think the
credit
freshman 2 classes are they get a PE credit and they get a music appreciation credit. So that's kind of dipping their toes into that dual credit experience as freshmen because they're 15-year-olds.
Right.
And dipping your toes in is about what we wanted them to do. And then they have sophomore year, they take Spanish, dual credit. They do speech. They do a BCIS class. So they're taking more classes that sophomore year. And then by junior and senior, they are primarily taking college credit classes.
So back to the freshmen, they're taking these music appreciation, et cetera, but they're also taking English, science, math, right?
Yep.
Are they at an advanced level too?
Yep. So everyone there takes pre-AP classes in their core classes.
Okay. So they're, even if you're there and you're a freshman and a sophomore and you're not getting college credit as such,
right.
It's preparing you to get college credit the next 2 years. So you're not just taking, the routine sophomore history class. You're going to be getting the pre-AP level, pre-AP world history or whatever.
You're right, because we're a year or two away from college credit, and then we need to make sure they're prepared.
And their last 2 years is primarily college credits.
It is.
Who teaches it, Hill or BISD?
Hill teaches all of the classes for the early college high school. So they take care of all of that. And then at our traditional schools, we have BISD instructors that do that, you did. Yep.
Yes, I started that about 2003, and at the time, for about a decade, they would just put AP and dual enrollment in the same class at the same time, which I didn't have a real problem with, and the kids didn't have a problem with. But I think the administration eventually started having a problem with because their attitude was AP and dual are 2 different things and attract 2 different type of students. So one of the things that Jimerson mandated, I guess, if you want to use, for lack of a better word, or required of us, is that they have separate classes.
Right.
And but I taught them the same, the same curriculum, same materials, whatever. But the only difference is one took a test, one didn't.
Right.
But as far as for me, it was like, okay, that's what you want to do, no big deal. But I just know that was originally how it was planned.
And one of the changes we've made in the last few years is for a long time, dual credit didn't get as much weighted GPA as an AP class did. Right. But we've switched that. So if you're taking dual credit or you're taking AP, you're getting the same weighted GPA for those courses because they're both college credit bearing courses.
Oh, and that's appropriate because I wasn't the only teacher that did it that way. I had other teachers that taught dual and AP, like our friend Wayne Wasom.
Yes.
And he was teaching the same material.
Right.
They're doing the same thing.
Absolutely. They're learning at a college level.
Yeah. They're the assignments and everything were the same. And so why not give it the same weight?
Right.
There's a couple other teachers that also did both. I like the fact that BISD, at least on the campuses, have their own teachers doing it because there were 2 or 3 times that we'd have Hill people come in, but they weren't attached to BISD at all, and so there was no real way of accountability. And you might get a Hill instructor that really took it seriously, and some that did not.
Well, and Hill's on a different schedule. They don't teach Friday classes, and so that's on a traditional campus. We have those kids on Friday too, so we need to make sure we take care of that too. Yeah,
so I remember a couple of my colleagues at Hill, they were so used to a different clientele, so to speak, that they did not adjust well to 16-year-old kids.
Right.
Because we can think they're advanced, we can think they may be a bit more mature, but they're 16-year-old kids.
They are.
By definition, they're difficult.
They are 16.
Right. And some of these older adjuncts, and a lot of our adjuncts did not teach high schools.
Right.
They're coming from other professions. And so there was an issue. So I'm glad that BISD people handled that aspect of it.
Right.
But I guess, the early college program does, though, require a bit of sacrifice because, like I inferred earlier, you're not on the band, you're not on the choir, you're not on the football team. Is there any possibility that could happen, or is that just not?
No, it's really, you're choosing this, so you're saying no to that. But I will say the culture on that campus is so collegial. Those students love being Burleson collegiate high school students, and so there is just a camaraderie there that is fantastic.
Well, there must be a great sense of pride to be able to tell people that you're 16 years old, 15 years old, and you're taking college classes.
Right? Yes.
And from what I understand, the demographic that y'all want is those people that college may in other ways be either unaffordable or unattainable.
Right.
So you're not just going for the best, quote, the best kids in the district. You're going for kids of moderate income, moderate circumstances. Maybe they may be the first one to get a college degree. And so when people apply to that, those kind of questions are asked?
Yeah, so we look at that and make sure that there's this balance of that willing to put in the effort, because it's not an easy program.
All right.
But really, how do we support our kids for whom this may be their best avenue to get into that 4-year program eventually and get that full degree? Or it may be that the associate's degree is the right thing for them, and then they go get some certifications and are able to do something with that.
And they go make some real money as a plumber or a welder.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's see, when this first came up, I had to educate a few people because they thought they were going to be taking the very cream of our students. And I said, no, actually, it's the ones that they're capable, but otherwise the finances or the opportunity may not be there.
Right.
Maybe a single mother situation, maybe a foster kid situation, those kind of kids that have the ability, but in other words, otherwise may not be able to afford school.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned earlier, massive savings, sir.
Yes,
certainly.
Absolutely.
But I would think also the vast majority of those kids that probably that graduate from the early college program go to a university because that's what they've been drilled for.
Right. They're ready for it.
Yeah, ready. Yeah. And that's a real great thing. We still do AVID, don't we?
So we aren't doing AVID anymore.
Oh, no.
But we have a substitute. Don't worry.
Okay.
So we have a class that actually started at the collegiate high school. It's called PATH, and it's a TEA course that does the same kind of teaching. So our same people who are teaching AVID are teaching the PATH class now. And so I was in it yesterday and heard this 7th grader, give a phenomenal speech. You don't expect 7th graders to give great speeches, but the training in that class, prepared him for that. And the other kids asked such good questions and gave such good feedback to him. Like, that's why I love that class, is because the skills you see grow in that class are just fantastic.
So AVID skills are being taught, even though not by that name. But I just remember 2013, we initiated AVID, and across the hall, my good friend and now retired friend, Steve Gobin, did that. And
he was great.
He was fantastic, and he was built for that class. But I'm glad they're getting the skills. And it's probably AVID in everything but name.
Right.
And so that's good because, like we said earlier, there's so much more expected of a graduate, than when I did in 1980, which tells you how old I am. And again, I went to a school with a lot of advantages. And when I came to here to Burleson, I began to appreciate that much more because Plano was a fairly well-to-do community, so they had the money to do whatever they wanted, whereas Burleson had to, figure things out a bit.
We make it work.
Yeah, make it work. Yeah, and so now as far as any, you said you had degree plans now?
Yeah, at the collegiate high school. So up until now, everyone has graduated on the Associates of Liberal Arts degree, and so that's just kind of been our one choice. But now we've added in 2 additional degrees. We've worked for a long time with Hill to kind of roll this out. So one is a Associates of Arts of Teaching, so to help prepare kids for heading into that teaching career. And then maybe even transitioning into Tech Teach program that they offer here as well. So that's one additional degree. And then the other one is still a liberal arts degree, but you're meeting all the prerequisites for nursing. And so it prepares you to head straight into the RN program at Hill and actually take one less class per semester once you're in the RN program.
Well, I probably have, in a class of 20, at least 2 or 3 nursing candidates.
Absolutely.
That's a very big program at Hill's, the health science and whatnot. The majority of my students at Hill are BOF recipients, and they're going to get their basics, as they say, and then they'll go on. But I would promise you, like in a class of 23, maybe even 4 are nursing students. Maybe 3 or 4 are business, 3 or 4 education students, and some are like, I don't know.
They're figuring it out.
Well, this. When I left college in 1984, I was going to be a banker. Here I am now. So you never know what's going to happen. So,
of course.
And I tell them that, say, you got to be pretty adaptable. And so you may be sitting here in the course thinking, well, when am I going to use this? Well, you might 10 years from now, and you never know it.
Absolutely.
Of course, I haven't used algebra in the last 40 years, but still.
Right. If you need to tomorrow, it.
Oh, no. I'd ask some 13-year-old.
There
maybe.
you go.
But, I think it's really great that not only getting the credit, but you probably expose them to a lot of different possibilities that they may not have considered before.
Absolutely. Yeah. And nursing is such a great career. They're in such high demand.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
but I'm just thinking, here I am, I may not have the, home life that opens up all these opportunities or exposes me to these other possibilities. And you go here, and he said, I never thought about doing X or Y until today.
Yep.
And that's if that's not the essence of education, I don't know what is.
I mean, yeah, it's transforming lives, right?
And what about the parents' responses to this? Are they what do they think?
Oh, with the amount of money they're saving over a college education, they love that.
Yeah, I know, but they're usually pretty, I bet, a bit more supportive than just some parent that sends a kid to school and tell me how it turns out. You know, because I had those kind.
Yeah, they have a lot of buy-in to the program, and they offer a lot of support to our kids, which is great. And like I said, they do field trips. That's one of the requirements from the state.
Really?
Is to visit colleges on a regular basis. So we have parents go on that and help out. So
I did that after I left BHS. I spent 3 years at Southwest Christian, and I was the guy that helped with the tours every year. And those colleges, oh boy, I mean, my alma mater, Baylor, was fairly humble back in the early 80s. Now it's so much different. Same with TCU. Same with UTA. That's much different than when I went there for my graduate work and whatnot. It's a much different school. And what I noticed more is that you're going to have to be self-motivating and self-disciplined at a higher level than when I was a kid or a student in college.
Right.
It really is just because there's so much more at the collegiate level that's going to be thrown at you than you used to have.
Oh, my 8th grader is more disciplined than I was as a 12th grader for sure. Maybe even as a college student.
Where'd you go to school?
High school or
college?
UT, Austin.
Yeah, okay, so you know the drill. And, and you're throwing down there that huge campus, and you better be ready to go.
Yep, you're on your own.
When we'd go down from Baylor about once a semester to visit friends, and we were astounded because Baylor at the time was much smaller than it is. And the thing that got to me, they said, "Let's go bowling." It's on campus, sure.
Exactly.
Walk in there, and there's an open bar, and I'm like, "Wow, this ain't Baylor anymore."
No, a whole different world.
So okay, I get it. But I promise you, if I went to UT, I'd have a hard time focusing. And this is 40 years ago,
right?
And so I think that's what the early college program really will do for them is that they're probably at this point when they go to, their next year, they're like, I did this already.
Right. They're ready to go. That's our goal.
Yeah. And I will say this. I've had several students that said that our AP program did the same thing for them. Not just mine, but also the ones that like Miss Davis taught, Mr. Wasom taught, Loretta Cossack taught, Janice Piles taught, Carolyn Stover taught. They said those classes really did prepare them.
Right.
I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but I just remember, they came and told me that the pre-AP and AP courses, in some ways, were more demanding than some of the college classes they were in.
Absolutely, and really, to some degree, that's the goal because you're preparing them for any university to be able to walk in and say, "Yep, I've mastered that."
And so even when they were 16, they might have thought, I'm here in purgatory.
Right.
When they go to Tarleton or whatever, I had kids come out and said, I had kids wanting to buy my notes that I had from your class or from my English class or whatever. Or, the professor's going to do a book that we did in 10th grade.
Right.
So we do prepare them well.
Absolutely.
And you hear a lot of criticism out there. One criticism, let's just shoot down right now, though, is we don't involve ourselves in exotic or weird philosophies or teaching curriculum. We don't, even if we were inclined for that, we don't have time for that or the money for that.
Exactly.
So, I hear people, they see it on news.
Right.
Some district in Virginia or Florida is teaching something bizarre.
Right.
And they say, we must be doing that here. And I said, you got to be joking.
No. Not a bit.
Or they'll have some weird decision made by a school district. It seems like Fox always focuses on this district in Virginia all the time, Loudoun County, and they always have these weird decisions, and people think that must be a universal thing. And I said, this is Burleson, Texas.
Right. We're not doing that.
I can just imagine.
Yeah.
But any program that's worth its salt is going to be diverse within the curriculum because the state mandates it. The AP program mandates it.
Right.
Early college mandates it.
Right.
So...
Yeah, but we're preparing kids to be learners also. And that's part of, I think, what they learn from your AP classes, not just the content, but how to be a learner, which helps them in all of their college classes.
Well, there's no way they're going to pass college or AP tests or really be legitimate dual enrollment recipients without a varied and multicultural approach. Because, if I said, no, I'm going to teach certain things in AP history, my kids would have gotten wiped out on that test.
Of course.
And most of the parents understood that. So I very, very rarely, maybe once or twice, I had somebody question why I was talking about a certain topic in class because they understood what the game was. They understood what was going on.
Yep. They want their kid to get the college credit.
Yeah, with that, and they understand that, I think these people had a broader view of what was going to be expected of their kids. Now, that being said, there were restraints. I couldn't just, Lana Davis and I, we used to joke with each other about, I walk in and said, so you're making liberals today? And she'd come in and said, so how's the Reagan indoctrination class going? And their kids would laugh and they'd joke and all this because they enjoyed that kind of banter. Yes. That just didn't really happen to the degree that one might believe if they just watched the media.
Right. No, our kids are learning the basics and learning them well and getting good at it.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't have time to indulge myself. And also, all the teachers I know were sensitive to the fact that you're going to have a very diverse audience in that classroom. And you don't want any of those kids to feel like they're not part of that audience.
Right.
They may not be the norm, so to speak, or they may be, in the minority or a certain view or a certain lifestyle, whatever. You don't want them to be outside of the class. You want them to be inclusive. And so I think that's one thing I learned really quickly back in the 90s is a lot of my preconceived ideas about people and how they lived, it went right out the window after a couple of years because I was dealing with so many different situations that I had not dealt with before. Right. And I learned a lot,
The needs that kids come in with and how to support them.
Yeah. And the different status they have in their lives, different places they are in their life.
Absolutely.
Boy, that's a long time ago, though.
But it's serving all kids, and that's what you did, and that's what we still do.
You learn that the hard edges of your philosophy need to be softened quite a bit. And the teachers that really didn't do that didn't last very long. Sure. They really didn't. They couldn't adapt, and they were out in after 3-4 years. Sure. Or they moved to another district or something like that. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, we're getting close on time. I've been kind of dominating some of the time myself. So why don't you tell my vast listening audience that tuned in at the latter part of the show what they need to know about AP, dual, and early college?
Yeah. So, our goal is for kids to be college and career ready. That's our goal for every kid who leaves us. And dual credit, AP, those are some of the best ways to do it because you walk out with the skills, you walk out with college credit for such a reduced price that it is worth looking at for your kid. And I think a lot of our kids ask, should I do AP or dual credit as if it's either or, but it's really not, that's a false dichotomy. It's not. It's where do I need to take this dual credit or maybe this subject I need to take AP.
Well, I had dual credit kids take the AP test just because they were taught it and they said, why not?
Why not?
Because AP is international in a sense. And so, and as far as Hill College dual credit, it's more regional, but no one questions AP. 4 or 5 AP, you're going to be, it's good to go if you're going to school in New York. Whereas, I don't know, does Hill College travel to New York? Probably, but you don't know for sure. You don't know for sure. Because like I said, these colleges could be pretty squirrely. Right. And so, but no, Hill does travel well within, the 5-6 state area. I've been told, been told by students, oh yeah, they took it over in Oklahoma school they went to and whatever.
Of course.
Anyway, go ahead and finish because I kind of jumped in on that.
No, but it really is about that's our affordable way to get kids started in college, to learn those skills that they need to be ready for that. And we have great instructors on our campuses leading those who care so much about the kids and making sure they're ready. And that's, when they get into those AP courses, they see these real content experts in this, in AP U.S. history who know it so well and love it so much that it's just contagious. Those are the classes that are just so much fun to walk into for me as an adult, because then I want to learn more about it.
When I taught AP history, and I had to give it up because of the division of the schools, and we had, so some of the teachers I go over here, it's a long story, but I ended up doing almost all government and economics. And I gave over my AP class to Wayne Waystone. I was like, this is my baby. Yes. he took it to another level.
He's great, yeah.
And so, that's reassuring. Yeah. And I'm glad to hear Lana Davis is doing the AP for government economics because I just think so much of her. Yeah. Well, anyway, it was great talking to you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I don't know who I'm talking to next from BISD. I probably won't be doing one in December, I doubt, because everybody's going to be busy or on vacation. But we'll let Miss Tyler decide that, or Michaela decide that. They'll. There's a couple of people have asked for, and they said, "Well, we'll try to fit them in." Good. But it's good to know, and I hope people will share this with the community because they need to know what's going on in their schools, whether you have kids or not. Right. You pay taxes, and also definitely impacts the quality of your homes and your community. And every realtor will tell you that.
Of course.
Every business owner will tell you that. So thank you, Seth. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Glad to be here.
All right, what's going on? Next week we have 2 shows. We're not going to do on Thursday because that would be kind of a waste of time. But I'm doing Victoria. She's coming in on Monday. She was going to come in earlier in the week, but she had mom duty, so she'll be here on Monday at 10. And then I've got a special guest. Santa Claus is coming on November 22nd, or 21st, actually. I don't know what the date is. Next Tuesday. You figure it out. I'll talk to you later.